And welcome to the Monday edition this June. Would you believe June 2nd already? What happened to me? I blinked. Anyway, it is a brand new month. Nice to have you with us today. Later on after the 10 o'clock news, we're going to learn about the marriage of Cops and Donuts and Halo Burger. When Greg Reinerson's going to be with us from Cops and Donuts. At 11 o'clock, we will have information about Superior Insurance on the Focus program. But we begin this hour talking about state business with State Representative Matthew Bierlein. Representative Bierlein, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Well, we're doing well. I hope you are too. How's the budget doing?
I had a feeling that'd be your first question.
Well, you were right.
I think that we just had the May conference report come out that showed we have a little bit more money than maybe expected from the January report, but less than we were hoping the May report would show. So what that meant was, so the Senate put out their budget already. It was $1 billion. Almost $1 billion, sorry, not quite. Almost $1 billion over revenues, and so there's some work that needs to be done there. I'm expecting Republicans will put their budgets out of the House, their different subcommittees, within the next couple of weeks, now that we have what those final numbers were from the May conference, so we know how much money there is to actually spend.
Is the May conference the final number? Or are we going to get a June conference that's different from the May conference?
No, but so after the May conference, things are just, we know what we collected in taxes, and it just gives us a much better look into the amount of revenue that we have to spend. So, we estimate in January what we think we're going to have. The economy goes up a little, it goes down a little, and we have less than what we thought we were going to have in May.
The number that was bandied around, I think, was what, 84 billion or something like that?
Yep, that's pretty close.
And is that what it is?
It is. I think it's 84 and a half, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Or right around there.
Here's my question. How did we do that in just a few years? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't the budget in the 50 billions or something like that before the pandemic, and then all the federal money started rolling in, and everybody said, well, when the federal money goes away, we're going to be back to where we were. How did we get to $84.5 billion? What changed?
Yeah, well, to your point, you're exactly correct. I was on staff in 2019 in the Senate, and I think our budget that year, if I remember correctly, was around 62 or 63 billion. Okay. And it was the largest budget that we had ever had. And I remember at the time just thinking, holy cow, like how did we get from the 50s to 60? And now you're right, we're at, in the 80s. Some of that is federal money. There still is, almost half of our budget is federal funding still that comes into the state through different agencies and departments. Right. Every state gets those dollars, some more than others, depending on the programs they offer. But there's been a ton of things that have happened since then. The economy itself, people haven't stopped spending from the COVID days. And so, so much of our revenue is based on what people are spending. And that drives everything, right?
Yet,
so it's driving sales tax, it's driving the wages that they receive and they pay taxes on. And the problem is, from what I see in a lot of reports, that people are still spending, but they're not necessarily spending cash. A lot of people are spending credit.
And we have a smaller population. We've lost population. It just doesn't correlate in my brain. You have fewer people spending more money.
Everything costs more. Right, so
that's true.
For the same product, you're paying more sales tax, and wages. Maybe wages have not kept up with inflation, but the wages are still up. So you're paying more in state income tax. All of those things just contribute to to the budget growing in available revenues, even if things seem to really be for most people pretty flat.
So since we have all this newfound wonderful revenue at $84.5 billion, I assume we can take care of all the infrastructure ills in the state, fix all the roads, and fix everything, right?
Well, I'm not sure I would say everything, but I would say that that's certainly, a goal, a big goal for us is to have in that, whatever that final budget is, to have a little over $3 billion dedicated just to roads. And what we'd really like to see is that money dedicated to our local roads, what we've been calling driveway to highway.
Amen.
Because those are the ones that have been the most neglected over the last decade.
And what are the chances? You're realistic.
I think they're pretty good chances, right? I think there are a few key areas where the House can really hold firm during budget negotiations. And I think this road funding, we've made too big of a deal about it to walk away from it.
It seems to me, Matt, that this should be a bipartisan issue because Democrats and Republicans both have to drive on the same streets.
And I think it is a bipartisan issue. I think it's how we get there where the big difference is. The Senate budget that they put out doesn't include a road funding plan. That would be a separate thing from their budget. And so if you're already over budget and then you still have to come up with $3 billion somewhere else, we have an issue. And so that's where when the Republicans put out their plan from the House in the next couple of weeks, it's going to include that road funding model. And so that will be our starting off point for negotiations. And there will be some big differences there because of that.
How long do you think it's going to take to have a budget? Will it be on time?
Well, it depends on your version of on time. There is a rule that says we're supposed to get the budget done by July 1st, but the Constitution says, by the end of the fiscal year. Will we have it done before October 1st? I certainly think so. Will we have it done by July 1st? I don't think so. I think what we will have is we'll have numbers from both sides on some key issues for where their negotiating points are starting from. And so we should have a really good idea what education funding will be so that, schools can make their decisions. I mean, that's always the big one, right? We try to get it done by July 1st so schools know what to do. If the House budget comes out and says we're going to put this much into education and the Senate budget's already been out and says they're going to put this much in and the governor's had her proposal that says we're going to put this much in, well, at the bare minimum, we should know what the floor of that is. Yeah. We might not know what the ceiling is yet, but we should know what the floor is.
All right, hang on for one more segment. I got to take a break, and we'll be back. We're talking to State Representative Matthew Bierlein from the 97th District. We will have more ahead.
It could be the best years.
All right, we're back with you here on WSUW, the Art Lewis Show. We're talking to State Representative Matthew Bierlein. Matthew, let me ask this about the budget, and we'll move on to some other stuff. But it's been speculated, and I use that word carefully, speculated, that one of the reasons the governor has not called for a special election in the 35th Senatorial District is that she might be able to use it as a bargaining chip in the budget. Have you heard that?
I think we've heard a lot of things. So, like you said, speculation. I would hope that no one would want to play politics with 270,000 people's voice like that.
But yet they are.
They are. We should have had an election by now, or it should have at least been called at the bare minimum. And it'll be interesting to see. There are a few members in the House who are running for some other positions where they could be leaving their terms early as well this coming November. And, we'll see how long those seats get waited to fill. So it's very frustrating, but we definitely shouldn't be playing politics with the voice of, an entire Senate district.
Who haven't had representation now for 100 and I don't know how many days it is. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. All right. So budget on its way eventually, hopefully. What else is taking interest these days?
Well, for me, I've been spending a lot of my time working on things related to, public safety and some regulatory things, mostly in the medical field. So I am on the Health Policy Committee, and I chair the Oversight Subcommittee on Public Health and Food Security. And so we're looking a lot at what kind of things we can do to improve our medical infrastructure. And a big part of that is having employees and stopping burnout when we can. I had a whole oversight committee meeting hearing just on physician and practitioner burnout and the amount of things that have been added to their jobs, over the last 10 to 15 years that aren't medical care. All of the administrative burden and things that really take them away from patient care. What things are helpful? What things have improved patient care? What things are we just doing because somebody thought, 20 years ago that it would be a good idea, but it hasn't improved outcomes?
Yeah.
And so we've been spending a lot of time looking at licensing requirements. That we've made it some pretty good effort to move different professions into interstate compacts. We've passed a few of those out of the House for OTs, for PTs. Physicians used to be part of this interstate compact, and we somehow let that sunset, so we've had to reintroduce it. We're looking at it for nurses. So if you get your license in Michigan, you can use that license in a multitude of other states, and vice versa. If you were to get it in, Florida, you can use that license in Michigan. And so we're looking at those things. We're, just trying to make sure that we have as robust of a system as possible.
I talked to a nurse the other day who's been in nursing for quite some time, and she's thinking of retiring. And for a long time, we had a shortage of nurses, particularly after the pandemic. Have we seen an improvement in desire to go into that profession?
We still have a nursing shortage. We have a shortage of practitioners in just about every field, especially in the emergency side of things. And so again, these are the things that we're looking at. What can we do better? If you are for instance, I'll give you an example. In Michigan, if you're a physician and you can practice in other states once this compact gets fixed. But because you're licensed in Michigan every 3 years, you have to have 150 hours of continuing education.
Right.
Well, if you go down and you get licensed in Ohio instead, it's only 75 hours of continuing education. But we allow those same folks to practice in Michigan without having to do the additional continuing ed, and we haven't seen any, poor outcomes as a result of that. So why are we requiring twice as many? What it's really doing is it's driving people to get licensed somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or they're picking other places. So as we're already struggling to grow our economy, to grow our population, to provide good services, there are definitely things we can do to make it easier on the people who are here.
Let's talk about a side issue to health care. As you know, the Trump administration is moving to streamline, I think is the word I would use, Medicaid. How is that going to impact Michigan?
That's a good question. I don't think we fully know yet. So what winds up being the final results that come from the administration is how we'll be able to determine. So, Medicaid, Michigan is a Medicaid expansion state. So we definitely have people, in our system that maybe some other states wouldn't have. And those are the folks that probably have the largest risk. If the administration's proposals go through, I've talked with a few congressional members that have said, they're not looking to cut the dollars that go to Medicaid recipients. It's just what recipients. And so, if you're one of the things that was said a few times, if you're a working age male that they can't figure out why you're on Medicaid, that you're not going to be eligible for Medicaid. But I think the problem for us as a state and planning is we haven't seen what that actually looks like yet. So the proposal does seem to change kind of frequently, and what actually gets passed from the House and the Senate that the president will be okay with. Again, it's just like negotiating our budget here. It's going to take three parties to all say yes, and the margins are a little tighter in the Senate. So we'll see. We're going to have to wait and see what that looks like before we can actually tell you what it's going to be implemented like in Michigan, unfortunately.
Yeah. So what else is on the plate these days?
Oh, gosh. Oversight's really been moving fast. I don't want to say fast isn't the right word. There's been a lot to look at. When we started the oversight committee this year as a super committee with multiple subcommittees, it was a result of the process that we went through during the last election. When we're out knocking doors and you're talking to constituents and you ask them, what do you need to see differently? And a lot of it was government transparency and oversight, and we feel like no one in government is accountable. And so when we started the oversight committee, we built a website where people could submit almost complaints, like a customer service complaint with the state on things that they would like to see investigated. And that was open to the public, that was open to businesses, that was open to other legislative members to say, I've been hearing from my constituents that this is going on. And through that's kept us quite busy for this, first quarter, almost half of the year. And there's really no signs of slowing down anytime soon. Because there is a plethora of things that have been brought to our attention that on the surface just don't sound quite right and need more investigation.
And you have no idea how many of those will come to fruition in terms of actually being improper?
No, I mean, and that's part of it, right? You start to ask questions, and because everybody has their interpretation of events and of how something happened. And so if you're a general constituent who had an interaction with the government agency and it went really poorly, you have an opinion or a view of how that went. So we can bring in the person and have them testify to their experience. Then we can bring in the department, have them explain their position on the experience. We can look through the law and see what, and the different rules that dictate how that was supposed to go. And we may find that, while this person had a bad experience, everything was followed to the law, or those were the rules. Or we might find that, wow, that was way outside the bounds of what the department should have done. Or I think what we might find even more of is we might find that technically no one did anything wrong, but what happened isn't right. And so we need to go back and visit that legislatively.
Yeah. Of course, a lot of times, if I don't get my way, it's a problem.
That can be true.
Well, Matthew, look, I'm going to let you go. We appreciate your time as always, and we'll chat with you again down the road.
Well, I really appreciate it, and anytime, and don't worry about the sugar beets because they drive the economy here. So,
okay, I won't. Good enough, Matthew. Okay. Thanks. Take care.
Thanks. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
State Representative Matthew Bierlein, and we thank him for joining us today. We'll have open phones for the remainder of the hour. 989-752-6111, the number to call. I want to talk to you about McDonald, Ford, and Freeland because they kind of saw the tariffs coming. And because of that, they stocked their lot with tariff-free vehicles and have many more en route. So now you can buy without worrying about the tariffs. And on top of that, not in place of, but on top of it, Ford is offering employee pricing for everyone. That means you pay the same price as Ford employees. In addition, let's say you're a Chrysler import buyer, but you're considering a Ford. Now's the best time because you get that lowest price offered. You buy just like a Ford employee. And Chevy truck buyers, same thing. Now you can look at the most popular pickup in America, the Ford F-150, at employee pricing. So you see, now is the right time to visit McDonald Ford M47 in Freeland for the best selection, the lowest possible price. Don't let tariffs prevent you from getting the vehicle of your choice at a price you can afford. Visit McDonald Ford in Freeland today. Remember, tariff-free and employee pricing for everyone. And Ford has extended that employee pricing through July 6th.
Attention! If you owe money...
With you, open phones for the remainder of the hour. We begin with Carl in Saginaw. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning, Art. Can you believe it's June
No,
already?
I can't. But it is.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks it'll be technically, the first of summer. But,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But we got some nice weather now, so I'll take it.
Me too. Me too.
Art, did you see the pictures? I'm sure you did, of the Ukrainian attack on Russia,
Yeah, I did.
where they
They
use these drones
Yep.
to attack,
Yep.
airfields.
What's even
And-
more interesting about it is how they got those drones to the airfields in trucks.
Yes.
And they just drove them
Yes.
in, and then they remotely launched them. Technology is unreal,
Yes,
isn't it?
Yes, it is. They've taken it to the next level, apparently. This drone warfare, and in one of the reports I listened to, they said they believe Ukraine has manufactured over 2 million drones since
Good.
the war has started.
Oh, good for them.
And
Don't you think
Yeah,
Russia's
they're
doing the
building
same
them.
thing? Russia's used them, so
oh yeah, I'm
you know.
sure they are. Yeah, but they've never done anything like this.
No, but you know what's
yeah.
worrisome about it? You know what the big worry is for me? If it could be done
Russian
there,
response.
if it could be done there, it can be done here. And how are we going to defend
Well, that's a good question.
it? Yeah.
We're supposed, the people in charge are supposed to be working on, cyber warfare and
Well, I'm sure they
this
are.
kind of thing. I hope they are.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
I'm sure they were watching this real closely right now.
Yep. And I would not doubt that we have drone defense systems. The question is, are they enough, and where are they? But then they're not going to tell us that, and they shouldn't.
No, and apparently these drones that attacked the airfields were small
Yeah.
drones.
Yeah.
And they launched some large drones as decoys, and then the small drones went in and attacked.
Yep.
And it was really quite clever.
Whatever they
You
did
know?
worked. I saw a video from the point of view of the drone as it attacked a bomber on the ground, and it was just a direct hit.
Yeah, apparently they've taken out like a third of Russia's
Yep.
long-range bombers
Yep.
to this point.
Yep, that's good for
And
us too.
in this attack, they took out 2 of Russia's what we call an AWACS
Yeah.
plane,
Yeah.
a flying radar station. They took out 2 of Russia's, and Russia only has 6 of them.
Yeah, well, they only got 4 now. So,
Yeah.
all right.
So
I got to move along here.
All right, thanks, Art.
All right, Carl, thanks. And we'll talk to Al in Bay City. Al, good morning.
Morning, Arthur. I'm going to test your memory a little bit this morning. What year was it you started SGW?
1974.
Did Terry Lem start the same time you did?
No, he came a little later.
I couldn't remember that, but
No, the only person here when I got here that's still here is Terry Henney. Everybody else came afterwards.
What year did you start the travel business?
94.
94, huh?
Uh-huh. 94 to
boy.
2008.
It's right. Run when you're having fun.
That's it.
Okay.
All right,
thank
buddy.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Come back. We'll get to Mark and Gene when we return.
Service. It's hard to find the
Days at 3 on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW.
All right, we're back here on WSGW. Back to our phones. Mark is in Sanford. Mark, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Art?
I'm fine, thank you.
So, I'm going to start off with I left town a week ago to go on vacation, and they were putting the bridge up over M10. They had all the supports up. They had 2x4s up. They even had a flag hanging. And I come back today, and everything is gone. What happened?
Got me. I didn't know that.
So they had the old one.
You talk about the M30 bridge, right?
The M30 bridge,
Yeah.
right? It was completely up. Now it's gone.
I don't know.
All right, I thought maybe I just missed something, and I'm Googling it. Nobody's got nothing on Google.
Well, let me ask you this, though. The framework and all the stuff you saw, could that have been in place to aid the removal of the old bridge?
No, they had the old bridge gone.
It was gone?
And the new cross braces, the new cement cross braces up last Tuesday.
Huh.
And they had 2x4 framings for the guys to work up there, and they had American flags up. Now it's gone.
I don't know. I'll have to ask. I have no idea. Maybe somebody
They're
knows. They
completely
can call and
diverted.
tell us.
Yeah, they completely diverted the whole highway. Now you got to go all the way up and around.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to ask because I have no idea.
You have a good one.
Hey, you too, Mark. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye now. And we'll say hello to Gene in Bay City. Gene, good morning.
Good morning. They just were showing on television the ICE agents. They were dressed like sort of army gear with no identification, with masks on. And they arrested an illegal alien, but they had no, it didn't say ICE or police or anything on their clothing.
That you
and
couldn't
they
see.
had masks on. And somebody, walking by said, who are you people? Grabbing somebody and shoving them in a car. And they asked to see their identification. And they said, we don't have to show you our identification. That's the way things were done in Nazi Germany.
Oh, let's not go
I
back
just
there
can't-
again, Gene. Here's the deal. The deal is when they've gone into areas well marked, they've been attacked. So I don't blame them for not wanting to,
You think
incite
that's all
folks.
right that they're wearing masks?
As long as they identified themselves, and I'll bet they did
They're
to the
not.
person.
They're not.
I'll bet
They're
they
not.
did
They
to the
won't
person
identify
to the
them.
person they arrested. I'll bet they did. You weren't there.
If you were walking down the street and saw a guy grabbed and shoved in a car, and you asked, "Who are you people?" and they won't tell you, is that right here in America? Is that the way America should be?
Let me ask you a question.